What does that mean when you got a book that's a viral sensation? I mean, other than maybe infecting people with the nightmares that you write about, what is a viral sensation when it comes to books?
Well, I think that term really was coined by the marketing department at Titan, and their Titan Books, which is putting out my the book that you're talking about, Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke, but it's also being packaged with two other stories. So the book is called Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke and Other Misfortunes. But to answer your question, like, you know, a viral sensation when it comes to books, I think of books like Bird Box that had like a huge impact on, like, you know, they were like, that book was like a cultural phenomenon, you know, like with the movie and just like any sort of media that has, you know, that kind of the quality that it just goes in, it kind of seeps into other communities and other, it just like reaches as far as it possibly can. You know, with Things Have Gotten Worse, like there were so many people that were reading that book that weren't necessarily in the niche horror market that it was, you know, written for. And that really surprised me, because I would have people telling me, you know, I saw your book on this random app, you know, I saw your book being reviewed by this person that has, like, you know, no affiliation with the horror genre. So, and it was really quite strange when that happened, because Things Have Gotten Worse was really kind of a niche project. Like, it was published through Weird Punk Books, which is a very small, like, micro press based out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. And they publish a lot of, like, really just dark, gritty, transgressive fiction. And I think the reason why Things Have Gotten Worse, like, broke out the way it did was maybe a couple of things. Like, it obviously was seen by the right people at the right time, so that people could, you know, have access to it and read it and formulate their own opinions. But I really do think the cover art was a big selling point. I think the original cover art really, really drew people in. And I think people were already familiar with Kim Jacobson, who did the cover art for the original edition of Things Have Gotten Worse. And I think that that cover art just really drew people in. And I also think the title really drew people in. And moreover, I think that the fact that the book was kind of promoted as this, like, nostalgic look at interactions between two women in, like, the early 2000s. I think nostalgia is really big, and it was really big, like, in 2020, 2021. So I feel like all of those elements kind of combined and just made, like, the perfect storm of a book and, like, a book release. And I think those are really the key ingredients as to why the book became such a viral hit with people. You know, that said, like, not everybody loved the book, and that's totally fine. Like, imagine if we all liked the same things, like, our world would be so boring, you know?
Exactly. Very cookie cutter.
Yeah. So, but people had very just resolute, they just had very fixed opinions of the book. And a lot of those opinions helped the book go viral even more. Because a lot of people were saying, oh, it's trauma porn, oh, it's, you know, fetishization of queer women, you know, and those reviewers that reviewed the book and kind of, like, condemned it, in a way actually helped promote the book even more. Whether they were intending to do that or not, I suspect that they weren't trying to, you know, help promote the book. But in reality, like, negative reviews do help a book's success quite a bit. You know, when you have reviews that are saying, this is disgusting, this is horrible, like, this shouldn't be read. Like, I'll never forget, like, the first 1-star review I ever got was for Things Have Gotten Worse, because it was essentially like my debut novella with like a press. Like I had released some material independently, just like through myself, but Things Have Gotten Worse, for all intents and purposes, like was my debut with a legitimate independent publisher. And the first negative review I ever got, like the first 1-star review, was for that book. And I remember the review said, "There are no words for how disgusting this book is." And to me, I was like, that's a rave review,
100%.
That's like a review that will sell books. You'll get people. I mean, obviously when I first got the review, I was like a little bummed, because I was like, oh, like,
sure,
a 1-star doesn't feel great.
Right.
But then when I kind of looked at it and analyzed it and really thought, really gave it some good thought, I was like, oh, this review like will actually help me quite a bit.
That's a blurb, the most disgusting book I've ever read.
Yeah, exactly. That is a blurb. I mean, and then there were all these other reviewers that came out and, just said that the book was like trauma porn and, fetishization and, all of these things. And those reviews like really made people interested and were like, oh, I really want to read this now,
Yeah.
So just to get back to answering your question, like a viral sensation, a viral hit with a book, I think it's any sort of book that is able to reach the furthest it can outside of its intended readership. Things Have Gotten Worse was written for a specific market, like a specific readership, like the kind of niche splatterpunk transgressive fiction market. Those were the people that I had in mind when I was writing the book. And then for it to kind of blow up the way it did and move out into all of these different little niche communities in the reading community, I mean, that was unbelievable to me. But it was also like incredibly terrifying, because like to be like mentioned and to be like such a big hit with readers and be talked about so much, like it is like kind of frightening. Like going viral like is really frightening, and it kind of opens you up for a lot of abuse, unfortunately, a lot of like incorrect assessments of you as like your character, your being, like who you are.
Right.
And I mean, but that's just what comes with it. And I shouldn't say like, I hope I'm not making this all sound like super negative, because it wasn't all negative. Like that book, Things Have Gotten Worse, opened so many doors for me. And I met some incredible people through that book, like people that read the book and then reached out to me and said like, I'm such a fan of your work. Like people that I don't want to like name drop or anything, but like I really, and a lot of like projects that I have coming out over the next couple of years are because of that book and the connections that I was able to make because of the success of that book.